Hello, and welcome to today's live Writer's Digest webinar titled How to Land High-Paying Writing Gigs in the Christian Market with author and copywriter Joshua T. Boswell. Joshua T. Boswell is a copywriter, author of Secrets of Writing for the Christian Market, creator of 6 Figures in 6 Months, Mastering the Art of Self-Marketing as a Copywriter, an ordained minister, and an advisory board member of AWAI, the world's leading trainer of direct response copywriters. A marketer with over 19 years of experience in business development and direct marketing, Joshua has written for and spearheaded successful million-dollar campaigns for St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital, Child Fund International, Sony, Microsoft, GM, and dozens of other organizations. He regularly speaks and writes on topics ranging from landing high-paying writing clients to successful web marketing strategies. Okay, Joshua, I'm going to let you take it from here, and I won't jump in unless you need me to.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Thank you for attending. I appreciate it. No wonder I see a couple comments of people wondering, they're mentioning they can't hear. That's because I was muted waiting for my intro. So we're going to dive in. I've got about 70 slides and about 60 minutes to go through them. So we have a lot of content packed in here. I want to cover a couple housekeeping items first. Number one, at the end of this presentation, at the end of this webinar, I have 3 additional resources. They're complimentary. There's no extra charge for them that we'll be telling you about and giving you in an effort to help you, further your career and to further your efforts to land high-paying gigs as a Christian copywriter, a Christian writer. So if you will, be sure to stay to the end. We'll tell you all about those and how you can get access to them. Number 2 is, I see some people wondering if questions are allowed. Yes, questions are allowed. Please use the Q&A box. Maybe that was already covered, but if not, I wanted to remind you, feel free to type in questions. I will make every effort to answer those. We'll leave some time for questions at the end. I'll make every effort to answer those, and if we don't get to all the questions, then I will answer them offline separately, and we'll get those to you at another time. The third thing that I want to bring up is that you'll notice as we go through this presentation that I'm extremely passionate about this conversation, and the reason is because it's very, very personal and very, very close to me and to my circumstances. And I'll explain a little bit about that in just a minute, why that is. Now, I want to talk about what the objectives are for this call today very quickly. Number one is we're going to talk about why you would want to write for the Christian market. What is the benefit in this and what's involved within it and what does it look like? We're going to talk about a key skill for being an in-demand writer and getting paid very well. And in the process, and this is what I love about writing for the Christian market, in the process of all this, you can be an enormous blessing for thousands of people across the world. I'm going to share with you the 5 best paying gigs in the Christian market for Christian writers. We're also going to talk about a new paradigm. We're going to take a fresh look at fees. We're going to take a fresh look at your writing skills and how those can be employed. And hopefully I can shift your paradigm a little bit and have you see the world of writing from a little bit different set of eyes. Finally, we're going to talk about where to find and how to land your first quality clients. You'll notice I've got quality underlined there because I don't intend for you just to find clients. I intend for you to find quality clients that pay very well. And so we're going to help identify what to look for and then how to close those clients. So let's get started. First, a little bit about who I am. You'll see a picture here of my family. That's a little older picture. We have 11 children now. In this picture, we had 10. We're very passionate about family, obviously, but I'm also very passionate about seeing you win in the Christian market. Now, let me explain a little bit of my background. You heard some of my bio. You read some of my bio. Let me fill in a few blanks. I've not always been successful. About 10 years ago, I was a couple $100,000 in personal debt. I had some significant business failures. And we had 6 children at the time. We had no income. We were struggling in a significant way, wondering how we were going to move forward. That's when I discovered a lot of the things that I'm going to share with you today, and it resulted in a complete turnaround. I guess some would say a rags to riches story. Some would just say it was, the blessings from God? I would say it's kind of both. You work with the Lord, and He works with you, and great things happen. So thanks to writing and thanks to this whole business of what I'm going to share with you, we had a complete turnaround and we live a wonderful lifestyle. I probably would get in more into that, but I don't want to sound braggadocious, but we've been extremely, extremely blessed. I was having a conversation a few days ago with a good friend of ours, and he was mentioning how he noticed that I traveled quite a bit with the family, and I do. And he says, "How do you do that with all that you do?" And I said, "The truth is, I typically work 20 to 30 hours in a given week, and I devote the rest of the time to family and church responsibilities and other things that I enjoy doing." And so, that's an unusual situation, and I want to show you how to have that same flexibility if you'd like. I want to show you how to have that same kind of lifestyle if you're interested and if you want to. So let's dive into the logistics of this. Actually, first, let me talk about AWAI. That's who sponsored this event. I'm not an employee of AWAI, but I work very closely with them. I'm on their board, and we have a great working relationship. They've been around since 1997. They are the producers of the accelerated program for six-figure copywriting, which is a writing course that I originally took to create a lot of the success that I've enjoyed in my profession. And they are just the world-class experts at learning writing skills and self-marketing skills. And so, a lot of the things I'm going to share with you, I learned from them, and I'm very, very proud of my association with them. We'll talk more about them in a little bit. Now, let's talk about the Christian market opportunity first and foremost. The first thing that I want you to note is that the Christian market, in terms of products, services, technology, all those kinds of things, is about 15 years behind in what corporate America would be. And the reason for that is because for so many years the Christian market was the silent majority here in the United States and in other parts of North America. And there wasn't really a lot of need for us to be super vocal. Consequently, there wasn't a lot of, everybody went to church, everybody did what they were going to do anyway. There wasn't a lot of need for sophisticated marketing efforts. There wasn't a lot of need for any kind of sophisticated advertising. There wasn't a lot of need for sophisticated messages to go out there because we all were on the same page and we got it. Well, that obviously has changed in America today. And because of that, the Christian market as a whole is just starting to catch up with where corporate America is. Now, that has left a huge gap between reaching target audiences, whether it's a nonprofit organization or a for-profit organization or whatever it may be. There's a huge gap between effectively reaching the market, effectively communicating with the target audience and the target audience themselves. There's a massive gap there, both in terms of communication, technology, offerings, etc. That gap, my friends, represents an incredible opportunity. I'll talk about that in just a minute and give you some stats on how big the gap really is. But the upshot of it is that Christian companies, churches, nonprofit organizations are leaving a massive amount of money on the table because they're just not in line with what the consumer and the donor of today is expecting. But more importantly, and I put in bold, urgent letters here, and more importantly, we're losing souls. There is a massive trend away from spirituality and away from religion and away from typical Christian values. And so I say losing souls. That's not a judgment call per se. It's just a reality. Many, many, many people of faith, many leaders, spiritual leaders, are deeply concerned about the trend and where it's going. Well, part of that trend is being affected by this 15-year gap, this discrepancy between effectively reaching the target audience. So let's look at the numbers here and about what's really going on. The first thing that's happening here and why there's a growing need for a solid, effective communication system for good writers in this market is that there is now a common enemy. Now, if you look at this was a research study done by Pew Research back at the beginning of 2014, and it shows religious hostilities in the United States today. And you'll notice that the trend is moving upwards towards hostilities against religion, government restrictions on religion, and overall restrictions in other aspects of our society. The trend is moving upwards in terms of hostilities towards religion, particularly Christians and those of faith. Now, what that's doing is it's galvanizing people. And as they begin to galvanize, what happens is they start to vote with their pocketbook. They start to react by wanting to engage and to be more vocal. Well, this shows this incredible rising of a Christian focus in every single industry that's out there. There's a Christian voice in basically, if you look at healthcare, if you look at finances, if you look at writing, if you look at literature, you look at entertainment, you look at music, et cetera, et cetera. I could go on and on and on. You name an industry, and there is a growing Christian focus and a growing Christian voice. And even in those industries that are not focused on Christian values or promoting Christian causes, what we see is that these companies, I've named a few here, Hobby Lobby, Chick-fil-A, Ramsey, etc. We see that these people who have a strong focus in other areas also have a strong Christian background, which makes them lean toward or have a desire to utilize and to make use of those who understand Christian values. Now that all plays into us. And let me talk about another reason why this is such a huge opportunity. There is a distinct unchurched movement. Now this is separate from a losing souls, lack of faith, lack of religion movement. This is an unchurched movement, stepping away as a society from organized religion and moving more into personal religion, personal spirituality, personal faith. That personal faith was people step outside of the traditional structures of organized religion. What happens is they seek for and look for other resources to fill in that gap, to give them some kind of structure in their personal worship in their personal lives. That gap needs to be filled. It's leaving a huge hole in the marketplace, and people are scrambling all over and I've got here coffee cups and hats and entertainment and ministries and medical centers, etc. But there's a huge, huge, huge need for more people to be involved, effectively, professionally engaging in this market. So let's look at the market very quickly, and then we'll talk about how you can enter the market effectively and some of the opportunities that are there. Number one, you need to know that it's a $1.7 trillion market. Now, how can it be so large? If you look at the graph down here below, you'll notice a research study was done about faith-driven consumers. In other words, consumers that are willing to spend more, engage more, have preferences for companies and organizations that have a faith-based focus, a Christian-based focus. And you'll see that we have non-faith-driven consumers that are practicing Christians, which represents 46% of the market in America today. Now that's a huge, massive number. But the interesting part is this 46 million Americans that are faith-driven consumers, faith-driven Christians that are looking for companies and organizations that espouse their values, that look to the faith, that will understand them, that will speak directly to them, that will communicate with them in a way that makes sense to them. And so this is this pool of 46 million Americans, which represents a $1.7 trillion industry that's up for grabs. Now, the interesting thing about it is you see on this second chart that I've outlined here, the study was done is, would you be willing to pay more? Would you be willing to pay more if a brand, product, service, or organization was focused on Christian values or Christian focused, or as they've worded it here, had a biblical worldview? A shocking number. 84% said that yes, they would pay at least 5% more for a product or service. Same product or service, same organization, same donation, they would pay more if there was a Christian biblical view associated with that. So what we see here is that we, again, and I want to paint this for you, and I'm spending a little extra time on this so you really understand the opportunity. What we see is we see 46 million Americans who are galvanized by a common enemy. Their religious freedoms and liberties are being restricted, that they are under attack. They're feeling like they're no longer the silent majority. They feel like in ways they're coming into a minority group, and they're feeling a need to do something. At the same time, they're not feeling a need to enter into a lot of organized religion. They want more individuality and more freedom, so they're looking for structures outside of traditional foundations in order to fill that gap. And so they're reaching out to the market. They're looking for products. They're looking for services. They're looking for donation opportunities. But we have this 15-year lag time. of effective, persuasive, clear communication, writing, and marketing that's sitting there in the market. Can you see the gap? Can you see the urgency for writers who understand how to capitalize on and to be of service to the Christian market? It's an incredible gap. If you just look at this one chart, 84% said that they would spend more, but the opportunity is not there. Well, our job, and what I'm going to propose to you, is to find organizations, find companies, find individuals that are willing to help fill this gap and be of service to these people and reap the financial benefits for themselves. And of course, as you participate in that, you will be able to do that as well. So how do we break into this market? Well, let me give you an example of some of the things that are going on here that you can see a real-time example. Here's an example of a new market. Now, this was recently the Man of Steel movie was produced. Prior to the release of the Man of Steel, they created a ministry resource site. Warner Brothers did this. They spent millions of dollars on it. The return on their investment was very high. It was very successful. And what we see is they went out and they took what typically wouldn't be seen as a Christian market effort or a way to penetrate the Christian market or to capitalize on it. They took an entertaining film, Man of Steel, and they promoted that specifically and created entire resources for pastors and ministers. They did special viewings. They did sermon outlines and images. I mean, they went full tilt on this in order to reach deep into that. And they did it not just to sell, but for a good cause. There was people behind here, and I could tell you more of the story, but there was a strong interest here in awakening the Christian voice in the general public. That's 46 million Christian-driven consumers. So how do you break into this? How do you bridge that 15-year gap? How do you close that so that we can have effective communication, so that we can fulfill the need, that we can promote good quality products and services in this Christian market? How do we do that? Well, I'm going to suggest to you that there's one specific skill. It's a niche within your writing skills. There's a specific skill that you could hone and refine and master that would allow you to be the bridge for these companies and these organizations and these consumers who are faith-based. And by putting yourself in the middle there, you sort of become a toll gate. In other words, you have now what organizations like Warner Brothers want in order to bridge this gap. You will understand as we get through this presentation. You'll understand the Christian voice and how to approach it and where the clients are and what the opportunities are so that you can help bridge that gap. So what is the one skill that I would suggest that you learn, master, hone, and refine, and then put to use to create additional income in your life and bless thousands of people's lives? Well, quite simply, it's called persuasive writing. It's also known as copywriting. And I've mentioned that term a few times before. Persuasive writing is very, very simply the ability to write in a way that gets people to take action. You know, what kind of action? Well, making a donation, selling a product or service, going on a mission, whatever it is, there's something there that will help people have take action, that they'll have greater faith and be able to do more. Okay? So why would you want to learn persuasive writing and writing for this type of a market? Well, first of all, I'll just speak very bluntly, and I realize that a lot of Christians great at this, but I can get into a lot of reasons why, and we could talk why, but I'll speak very bluntly in the sense of why would you want to do this? Because there's an enormous amount of money involved. I'll show you some of the fee structures here in a minute and some of the time frames involved in doing some of these projects, and you'll ask yourself, why would people want to pay so much for persuasive writing? Well, the answer should be very simple. Consider if you created a persuasive writing campaign, an email or a script or a radio broadcast or something that moved consumers, faith-based consumers to take action or faith-based donors to take action. And you brought in, let's just use a number. Let's say that you brought in $1 million of new donations or new product sales for a company. Now, doesn't it make sense that if you were the engine that drove that campaign, wouldn't they want to pay you well and commensurate to that effort in order to have that happen? The answer is yes. So you'll make more money. You'll also become a more effective writer generally. I don't care whether you have your own cause that you want to promote, you've got your own book that you want to sell, you've got your own, whatever it is that you're wanting to do. you need to effectively communicate that and be persuasive in that. If you want to write articles and convince an editor or a publisher that you're good enough to do that, then what will you need? You'll need persuasive skills. If you want to publish a book and have that have any kind of success, you'll need persuasive skills. And so it doesn't matter what you're looking at. Hey, look, if you're single and you want to find a good Christian person to marry, you're going to need persuasive skills. Whatever it is in life, if you're a parent, you need to convince your children to do more, you're going to need persuasive skills. And so this will make you a more effective writer, more effective human being. So that's why I think you should learn persuasive writing. And I'm going to show you some resources on doing that. In fact, I'm going to give you a free resource at the end that's going to just, launch you into this arena. But why would you want to write and master the Christian market? Well, this is so the kind of crass side of this is you're going to make a lot of money. That you might see that as the greedy side. And I would say you can do an enormous amount of good with money. I'm not going to get into that conversation right now. If you have hangups with it, ask me questions and we'll talk more later about why you should be making a lot of money. But outside of that, I have had the thrill, the joy of being God's hands for a lot of good works. And I'll share some of that with you as we go along. Outside of being involved in so many good works, I have the thrill of peace of conscience. I enjoy the just joy of knowing that I live 100% harmony with my life, my Christian values, my faith, my stated morals. All of those things are in complete harmony with what I do every single day for my work, for my income, for generating my lifestyle. And I never have to do anything that's outside of the scope of that. I don't have to feel financial pressure to work extra hours and spend time away from my family. I don't have to feel financial pressure to do something for a company that maybe doesn't espouse my same values. I don't have to do things that are outside of the scope of what I want to do. And I consider that not only financial freedom, but I also consider that religious freedom. I get to practice my faith and my religion in the way that I want to without any outside constraints because I have this skill. And so I get to have fulfillment and purpose in my life and just an insane amount of joy and happiness. If some of you are on early, I was talking about the trips that we do. We have a big family and I get to spend a lot of time with them. That's my passion. That's what I love to do. Other people have other passions and goals and dreams and aspirations that they love to do. But all of these things can be realized through this system of writing persuasively and tapping into the Christian market. So here's an example of some of the dollar amounts that I'm talking about. Now, you'll notice I'm using a few terms here. If you're not familiar with them, it's okay. We can get into more of that later. But just look, if I write business to consumer persuasive copy, and I write a long copy sales letter, you'd see this as like a piece of junk mail that's 4 or 5 or 10 or 20 pages long that you get in the mail. If I write that for a consumer market, I might be paid $8,000 to $15,000 for that effort. In the business-to-business world, maybe a little bit more. In the Christian world, the fees are completely commensurate and growing. Again, as Christian marketers, Christian companies recognize the value of reaching out, they'll see that it behooves them to hire professional, well-trained, persuasive writers that specifically understand the Christian market. The fees will only go up from here. So I've listed a few other examples. You can look at those. But one thing I want to know, most of the projects, by the way, these are actual fees I've been paid. These are not hypothetical or I did maybe something. These are things that I've actually been paid for each of these projects. So what you see here is that most of this, you'll notice the note down here at the bottom, most of these projects took 1 to 3 weeks to complete, and I can do 2 or 3 of those concurrently. Now, if you add some of these fees up, and you look at what that amounts into monthly income, you'll realize that I don't have to be a starving artist or poet or writer. It pays very, very well. And again, like I said earlier, I typically can do these working about 20 to 30 hours a week, so I can devote most of my time to things that I really, really love and am passionate about in addition to my writing. So I want to tell you a story really quick, and then I'll get into the specific details of where the opportunity is and how you find it. We'll need to move quickly because we're already about halfway done. So I want you to meet Kali, is a Somalian mother. Now, I first came in contact with her when I read her story. I was writing for a Christian organization that focuses their efforts on raising money in Africa to help with freshwater wells, food, and children, etc. She's the mother of 2 children. Now, at the time that I heard her story, just before I heard her, or just before I came in contact with her, the closest water supply for her in her village was a 2.5-mile walk one way, 5 miles round trip. Through a series of events, that water source became contaminated. She lived close to the Ethiopia border and had to walk. After that became contaminated, she had to go into Ethiopia, use money that she had saved up for 2 years. She saved money for 2 years to hedge against an emergency water source supply. And she had this money, what limited money she had, and she had to walk into Ethiopia, a round trip of about 20 miles to get water for her family. They were hungry, they were tired, they were thirsty, they hadn't had clean water in days. Well, I want to pick up at the story as to when she goes in, pays the money for the water, and begins her trip back and has to cross back over the border from Ethiopia into Somalia. And I'm going to read part of an article that I wrote a little while ago, and I hope I can get through this. I told you, I warned you in advance that I was passionate and emotional about stuff. And so I apologize if I get, a little bit emotional here. So all went well until she got to the border checkpoint on her way back. With taunts and jeers, a new set of guards grabbed her pouch, confiscated her remaining money, and then poured out the precious life-giving water. Kali went back home without water and without hope to face her famished children. Now, let me pause in the story here. You have to understand that I wrote a letter, a fundraising letter that raised tens of thousands of dollars that enabled her village to receive a new well. When I got the note of that, it was very emotional for me, seeing how direct impact that I had on this person that I had come to know through articles and some other communications. So then I wrote further. I have great joy knowing that part of my money from my writing had just raised would be used to install a new freshwater well in Kali's village and dozens of other villages in the local area. The new walk to get fresh water for Kali and her children was 100 feet. Not miles, feet, 100 feet. And there were no guards and no checkpoints to pour out that precious water. Now, I want you to feel the power and the emotion of this. I don't just earn money for companies. I don't just raise money. I don't just do these, basic activities that feel like I'm grubbing for a living or doing activities that I don't agree with. I do things that I'm passionate about. My persuasive writing reaches deep into the lives of individuals like you, individuals like I was when I was a couple $100,000 in debt and struggling. It makes a significant difference. I can't tell you how much joy and fulfillment there is in doing that. So if that sounds appealing to you, let's dive into how this works and how you can participate in this market. Let's go through. We'll start at what I consider number 5 and work our way down to number 1, the top 5 writing opportunities for Christian writers. I've picked 5 that I believe pay well and that there's ample opportunity out there. There's no way that any of us, even if we had 10,000 people on this call, we would not saturate this arena. So let's go through some of these. The first one is media scripts. What do I mean by media scripts? I'm talking about radio scripts, documentary scripts, content videos where you're sharing ideas and content similar to what we're doing right now, but you could write the script for it. Video sales letters, which is basically a letter that sells something, but in a video format. There's a great need in the Christian market to embrace all of these media types because of the internet and because of where we're at in the world today. It's just a lag in the market, and there needs to be effective writers to help produce some of these materials in a way that will help people like Kali. So let me focus on one of these really quick and just describe it, and we could just go into the other ones if we had time, but we don't. A content video basically is going to give some free information. It's going to teach or inform a specific idea, concept, or whatever. It may or may not include a call to action or a direct sales pitch, and it's typically used to generate new leads. The content videos are what I term as salting the oats. In other words, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. But what you can do is you can salt the oats. And when you salt the oats, it helps to Very simply stated, it gets the horse thirsty enough to want to drink from wherever you're leading it to. We do the same thing with content video. We help them see the opportunity, and then we lead them to water and help them to drink. What are the fees on this kind of an opportunity? $100 to $500 per recorded or minute or broadcasted minute. So most scripts end up being, for a lot of these, 3 to 5 minute long, with the exception of video sales letters, which can be up to 45 minutes long. So even if you just take 5 minutes and you're paid $5 or $500 per hour for it, a maximum, you could make $2,500 for writing 5 pages. Now consider that, taking your writing skills, researching and writing 5 pages of an effective, persuasive content script and making $2,500. I can't guess how long that would take you to do. Depending on the project, that might take me a couple of days to a week to pound out, not even doing it full time. And I'm hoping, I keep saying this, not in an effort to brag, but an effort to have a paradigm shift come into your mind, okay? So let's look at some other things. Relationship marketing, okay? Relationship marketing is persuasive writing that has to do primarily with emails, writing emails to entice people, inspire them to come along and take specific action. This kinds of writing has 4 specific purposes. You're developing strong relationships with prospects, okay? You're going to convert free names into buyers. You'll cross-sell and upsell buyers, and you're going to create ongoing value and give service to individuals in a given market. Again, whether that's promoting a book, whether that's promoting a given service, whatever it is, you're writing persuasively to sell. Now, by the way, I just want to pause here. I notice there are a lot of comments. There are a lot of questions coming up here. I indicated before I probably won't get to all of them. I'm going to save answering them until we get to the end of the presentation, which we'll get to hopefully in time to answer a bunch of these questions, okay? So just know I'm not ignoring the questions. We will get to them, okay? So as you look at this kind of writing, relationship developing, I love this kind of writing for my clients. The reason is because I have an ongoing relationship with the consumer, with the donor, with the buyer, with the prospect, whoever it is. And I get to develop relationships with them. I get to be of service to them. I get to give them information and products and services that I know will bless their lives. I get to give them opportunities to bless other people's lives, like building wells in Africa or helping with homeless shelters right here in the good old US of A. So the types of stuff that you would do in this arena would be autoresponders. These are nurturing, continuity type things. Advertorials, where you're writing content with a focus on leading them to water, salting the oats, or sales emails, where you're directly pitching and selling stuff. Now, all of these would be considered direct response persuasive writing because we're enticing and inducing people to take action right now. We want them to do something now. Let's just look at some of the fees. An autoresponder fee might be $100 to $500 per email with 3 to 7 in each of a series. It's usually less than 800 words for each of these emails. This is what I call the sprinter work. You get in, you do the research, you hammer out a couple of emails, you collect $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, and you move on to the next project. It's a great way to make money quickly and to make a big difference rapidly. The awesome part about it is if you write a series of 3 to 5 to 10 emails, then those will be dripped out over time, and you'll have continuing influence with a lot of people. Go through these very quickly. You can go back and look at the slides later. This will all be recorded, and you'll have access to it for, I think, up to the next year. So you can review this regularly and see. And I just wanted to give you a taste of some of the opportunities. But an advertorial is going to be 800 to 1,200 words. Frequency varies, but they're very, very regular. Sometimes these happen daily, depending on what the client wants and needs from you and what you're doing with them. They'll pay $100 to $300 per email, sometimes much more. And sometimes if you're directly selling, then you'll have an opportunity to make commissions on that. So in other words, you get an upfront fee, plus you get commissions on the back end. Again, why would anybody in their right mind want to pay you to do this? Well, because they are building their business, their donor base, their products, their services are moving, their books, fiction, nonfiction, whatever it is. They are promoting their cause and purpose, their mission, and you are the engine to make that a reality. You're producing the writing that persuades and inspires people to take action and to engage with them. So there's a financial benefit for them. Of course, they would pass that on to you. Sales emails, same thing, $300 to $1,000. Again, I've listed here plus commissions. The closer you're to the actual sell, the more you can charge. And these go on all the time. You get emails all the time. You've seen these. You know what it's like. Let's talk about social media for a minute. This is a really cool arena, and this is an arena that obviously has just come up in the last handful of years. And if you have engaged in social media at all and you've followed any kind of companies, especially Christian companies, I can say with a little bit of love and tenderness in my heart, these people need help. Let me tell you, they need help. They don't understand good writing. They don't understand effective persuasive writing. They don't understand clear communication. And especially when it comes to a lot of these arenas are very short. Your message space is very tight and condensed. You've got to take the complex and make it simple. And there's techniques for doing that. And I'll give you some resources to help you do that. But you've got to take the complex and make it short and simple and engaging and really be able to promote and produce effective copy that gets results. So what is the purpose of social media? Well, number one, in social media world, you're targeting groups, like-minded individuals, as opposed to in other forms of advertising, you're targeting an itch. So let me give you an example. People inside of Facebook or LinkedIn, they'll group themselves by like ambitions, desires, passions, feelings, perspectives, political views, etc. And that's the glue that holds them together. So you'll find a big group for the Republican Party. You'll find a big group for the Democratic Party. You'll find a group of people that feel strongly about natural gas issues and environmental issues, and you'll find groups of people. So all these people are grouping themselves together by a cause, a purpose, an idea. As opposed to a lot of other kind of advertising, people have an itch to scratch. In other words, we could call this the bleeding neck. They are looking for a solution. They've got a corn on their foot that they need that's hurting them. They want to get rid of the pain. They have headaches. They've got troubled teens that they're trying to figure out how they're going to raise better. They're in an individual crisis, so they're looking for specific solutions. In social media, we target groups of people. We attract and engage new prospects based on how their worldview and how they perceive things and how they feel about things. And then through persuasive writing, we turn followers and likers into buyers. So we take that common cause, that common passion, that common enemy, whatever it is, and then we convert that into buying a product or service that helps them feel good about themselves, their cause, or whatever they're doing. We give strong value in social media. We're all about serving people and blessing their lives, okay? So that's a little flavor of social media. And I've gone through some of this. What would you be doing as a writer in the social media world? You'd manage communities, you'd write messages and updates, you'd write some advertisements that would help convert in followers, in likers, into buyers. You'd lead discussion groups. Oftentimes you'd ghostwrite. You're writing on behalf of whoever the organization leader is. And so a lot of this doesn't show up in your name. In fact, I've rarely done stuff that shows up in my name. Most of the persuasive writing I do is ghostwritten for somebody else. It's penned under somebody else's name. So fees can be upwards of $2,000 or more, sometimes much, much more a month, depending on how extensive the campaign is. And usually what happens is you engage people in a retainer situation. So you're on contract where every single month that money comes in and you provide the service to keep their social media presence up and alive and persuasive and converting and all those kinds of things. You do those kinds of activities. So just on a side note, if you do engage in direct response type content, in other words, you're writing persuasively and selling specific products and services, almost always that would be outside the social media aspect of what you're doing. So you would in a nutshell have an additional fee on top of that you could charge for writing sales type of stuff, direct response type of things. Okay. Now let's talk about internet content creation. As you see on this little chart, content reaches out and salts the oats for a lot of things. We've covered this in some of the video things, but this is separate from writing content, media, or video, audio scripts. This is actual content on websites. This is writing articles, blog posts. This is, putting together, all kinds of different content that shows up on a company's website or whatnot. So there's a big myth about content. The three big myths are this. Number one, people believe that content's designed to impress the readers. Number two, they think it's focused on establishing authority and authority. Number three, they think that this is only good for SEO, search engine optimization, to make Google happy. Well, none of those truths are at the heart of, or myths, I should say, none of those are at the heart of online content. So here's the 5 realities about what online content is. Number one, it's there to attract prospective donors and buyers. Number two, you're writing to engage readers so that you can sell to them on an ongoing basis. Now, lest you think that this is all about greed, why would we want to sell to people? Well, I believe that people will only do things, take action on things that they place value in. If any of you have ever raised children, you know that if the child pays for their own cell phone, they take a lot better care of it if they're the one earning the money and doing the job and the paper route or the lifeguarding position or running pizzas around town. You and I both know they're going to give a lot more value to that because they paid for it. They invested something in it. I don't believe in giving away a lot of stuff for free because people don't invest in it. I want them to invest in it and engage so that it's valuable, so they actually take action, because I know in taking action, their life will change. And that's a big part of what I do. So keeping them engaged and selling to them on an ongoing basis, I believe is the right Christian thing to do because it's what changes their life. So you're going to develop trust and nurture relationships. And as I said before, you're going to salt the oats. You're going to educate, enrich, and inspire. Fees on this are going to be $100 to $500 a piece, and it all depends on the length and complexity of it. And retainer deals here are also quite possible, very much similar to social media without a specific social media focus. You can get the retainers, you can be ongoing monthly revenue, and you can also work in their commissions if you're going to sell stuff, actually sell a product or service. So the last one that sort of is underlying all of this, and then we'll go through rather quickly, but the last opportunity inside of Christian copywriting, and where I think is the biggest need, is what's called direct response sales copy. In other words, copy that you write in order to directly sell a product, service, or acquire a donation. This is where the rubber meets the road. This is the gap in the market. This is where, for so many years, Christian marketers and companies and promoters of good, worthy causes just didn't get it. They didn't understand that in order to have success, in order to fulfill your mission, you have to have money to operate, and you have to have people engaged and make a commitment. And they didn't understand how to get people to do that very effectively. And so we have this huge gap. 84% of the market would pay more if they knew that there was a Christian focus, a faith-based effort behind a product or service, but they're not paying more. And why are they not paying more? Because there's not enough writers out there that understand direct response sales copy. It's a huge, huge gap in the market. So what makes it direct response? Very simply, it targets one reader at a time. When I sit down to write direct response copy, I think of one specific individual. It's a one-on-one conversation. Now, it might be mailed to 1 million people, but it's 1 million people of like minds, so it's a one-on-one conversation. This one-on-one conversation is going to drive people to take action. I've emphasized that a number of times. It's that persuasion. It's the thrill of getting someone to do something different that they wouldn't have otherwise done, but has enormous blessing in their life. And each action, every time that you do one of these things, each action can be tracked specifically. This is another part about this that I absolutely love. I love it because I know whether I'm winning or losing for my clients. And my clients know whether they're winning or losing. Look, if we're going to make a difference, if we're going to inspire and not be the silent majority, if we're going to get people to take action and to go to movies that have great values and to buy products and services that enrich their life and to subscribe to financial planners that have a Christian focus and aren't going to scam them or rip them off or drive them deeper into debt, if we're going to help build strong families and strong marriages and strong children and strong societies through Christian values that we know are proven through history to do that very thing, if we're going to do all of that, then we better be effective at it. We better know whether we're winning or losing. And in the direct response world, you know exactly. You send out an email, you send out a letter, you track the response, you know within 24 hours. In some cases, you know instantly. Is it resonating? Are the people signing up? Are they buying? Are they engaging? Are they donating? Are they doing action that's going to change their life? And you know instantly, there's a thrill in knowing that. You also know instantly whether you're losing. And there's somewhat of a downer in knowing that, but there's a thrill in getting the feedback so you can make adjustments and you can rise up to win again. That's the way the Savior taught us to do it. He taught us to be resilient. He taught us to do good works. He taught us to be flexible in the face of adversity. And that's why I love this. It gives all of the opportunity for us to do those kinds of things. So, again, key point is here, everything's measurable and instantly. This is just a quick report that I pulled from a campaign that was going on. You can see what the conversion rate is, what the bounce rate is, and we won't get into all the details of what that is, but you know whether you're winning or losing immediately, okay? Now, here's the best part about direct response copy. Because you're selling stuff, because you're getting people to take immediate action, the fees are wonderful. They really are wonderful. There's a little bit more work involved with this. You got to research more. You got to have your skills fine-tuned and honed. You really got to be on your, on your best behavior, as it were. But if you can do that, and you learn the secrets of the stuff we're going to, share with you, and in the free gifts that I'm going to give you here at the end, you'll get the resources to be able to access a bunch of this and be able to fine-tune these skills. As you do this, you can get $2,000 to $15,000 or more. I've been paid much, much more for direct response campaigns that I've been involved with. And usually, almost always, there's a commission involved, somewhere between 2 and 10% royalty on top of the actual revenue that you get in. So obviously all of this depends on the length and the project and what you're selling and what the price point is and if there's donors involved or not. And there's a lot of variables there, but we'll walk you through all of that step by step so you know exactly how to navigate through this world. It's much different than writing articles just to write the article and have your name on it. It's much different than just looking to get a byline. It's much different than even writing a book. Although, as I stated at the beginning, the persuasive direct response skills that you'll learn here with us will go into making all of those other things more effective and helping you fulfill your dream and living the writer's lifestyle no matter how you want to fulfill it. The truth is, I do this. I do direct response writing. I do copywriting. I love writing. I'm excited about it, but I really do it so that I can live a lifestyle that's passionate to me, which in my case ends up being spending a lot of time with family, traveling, visiting things, learning hands-on, experiencing the world directly in a contact sport kind of environment. That's what I'm passionate about. And so, yes, I enjoy the writing. I love being part of great causes. But at the end of the day, I also love that I can do it in 20, 30 hours a week. I can take 1 to 2 months a year and vacation time for traveling, and I can still make a great, solid 6-figure consistent income and do things that I'm passionate about. So I've given you 5 major things here, but really it's just scratching the surface. There's all these other things that you could do. There are case studies and newsletters and bulletins and much, much, much more. We don't have time to get into all those right now. So let me share with you, we're gonna do 2 more things here before we wrap up. And I got to go quickly, and I apologize, but again, you can go back and review this, and I want to get to some of your questions. Let me show you how you can find high-paying clients in 3 simple steps, okay? Number 1, you're going to choose an industry, a focus. As I said before, I don't care what industry you talk about, there is a Christian-focused arena inside of that. Financial planners, there's Christian financial planners. You want to talk about health, there's people that specialize in that. You want to talk about products and services, memorabilia items, traveling, health spas, day spas. You can name me anything, we can find a Christian market. So you find an industry that you're excited about. And when I'm talking about finding a group of people that are capable of writing you a check, and I'm going to give you a resource that goes more into that statement, so you don't need to be too worried about what I'm talking about there in terms of a definition of a niche, okay? The next thing is you're going to gather contact information and resources. So you'll buy a directory, join an association, use social media, especially LinkedIn. I got a special tool for you to focus in on that particular part of it. And then the third thing is you'll let them know you're in business. So you pick a niche, you find contact information, then you contact them and you let them know you're in business and that you are willing to write and help close the gap between what they know and what they don't know. You'll use your direct response skills to contact prospective clients, and you'll reach out to them by phone or in person or in media, whatever it is. Or you can also go in what I call create an expert track where you become a foremost copywriting expert in that given niche. So let's say that you wanted to focus on being a writer in the health arena for Christians who want good advice and solid advice, then you would become an expert in that arena. Okay. So what you're looking for as you look for different niches and opportunities, you're looking for real companies that have professional websites, have a lot of content, and are engaged in multiple marketing channels, and in particular engaged in direct response type channels. You'll know these people because they'll ask you to sign up for a newsletter, they'll send you emails, you'll get things in the mail for them, and they'll ask you to buy their goods and services directly, as opposed to having just a retail outlet somewhere where you can go and find them. Now, I've given a couple of slides here to show what to look for and how to use the internet to search through them. I'm going to just click through these, knowing that you can go back and get these slides. But you'll notice that when you do a Google search, and in this case I searched for conservative news, and we could type in Christian news, conservative Christian news, and you'll see that there's a couple advertisers here at the top, and then there's other advertisers that are sponsoring links below, and then there are organic links inside of Google. People that are paying for ads on Google are the ones that are willing to invest money in writers. There's a clue for you. Okay, so you look for the ads. You'll also, when you find websites, you'll look to see if they have ads. And you'll notice this human events page has a lot of ads. Coming escalation of violence in the Middle East here at the top. That's an advertisement. That company is willing to pay money. Just leaked, did Obama lie? And that's an advertisement. You click on that, you find out the company that's advertising. Those people need writers. Okay. Now, you're going to do your research. You're going to find out what purpose the company has. You'll find out. Now, I'm talking about getting great quality clients here. So you'll do the research. You'll find out how big the company is. Are they spending money on ads? You'll know they are if you see the ads. Do they sell their own products or services? Do they have material that can be downloaded? And can you get a feel for what they're doing and how they're doing it? So if you can do that, and if you can find those things, then you'll discover that these people are usually quality clients. If they've got a purpose statement, they're a large company, and they're spending money on ads, and they've got their own product, they're a great prospect for you. Now, where do you find these people? You can find them in associations and societies. You can find them on membership sites, publications, all those kind of things. And let's quickly take a look at each one of these. You know about associations. There's an association for every group in the world. There's national events. You can go into this. You can get membership lists. You can find sponsors and advertisers out there that are promoting goods and services. All of these organizations, and I've listed just 3 associations here at the bottom that are options for you, but there are thousands of others out there with a Christian focus or have Christian values backing them. You can look at membership sites. There are a lot of Christian membership sites, from dating to products and services to Bible study groups to you name it, they're out there. You can also look at different magazines. These people all have subscribers and followers. You can write articles for them. You can also help to promote the magazine itself, help with marketing and writing things, and you can do all those kinds of stuff. Okay. You can also, well, let's just talk about finding the right person really quick. So job postings are very obvious. There's article bylines will tell you who it is. And again, I've got a resource for you, and I'm not trying to skip over this, but I've got a resource for you that goes into great depth as to who to find, what the right person is, and what to look for when you're looking for them. So we're going to just move on from this slide. Obviously, you're going to tell them you're a copywriter and help to build out your business. So when you're contacting them, you want to keep a couple of things in mind. First, impressions are crucial. You want to keep the relationship warm, and you want to realize that timing plays an issue. I've had clients that I have worked hard to close, but it took me a year to do it just because of timing. But then they turned into, over time, a 6-figure client just from that one client. So it's worth nurturing the relationship and keeping up with them. So how do we break into this? Well, I want to go through 5 resources that'll help you get started and show you what you can do next. Okay. So number 1 is learn how to write persuasively. We've created a special report for you called Secret Formula for Making 6 Figures from Home Writing Letters. This is all about persuasive writing and gives you insights and ideas about how to do that. Now, by the way, all of these free resources that I'm going to share with you are available at awaionline.com/Christian Writer. There's so much to this industry. We just knew we couldn't pack it all into 1 hour webinar. So consequently, we've produced additional resources where you can go out, get those at no extra charge, and make a decision whether this kind of writing in this arena is really for you. So you can get those at awaionline.com/Christian Writer. The first one is this free report about writing letters from home and persuasive writing skills. The second one is I want to invite you to attend another free webinar with me about how to become a well-paid writer in the Christian market. This goes very much more in depth into specifically the Christian writing market itself. So we already know that you're interested in persuasive writing, so we set that aside and we go deep into the Christian market itself. Okay, so that's another webinar. When you go to Christian Writer, this Christian Writer link that I've got at the bottom, you'll get an email back from us telling you the time and location, how to access that. Also, when you do sign up for this at awaionline.com/Christian Writer, I've created a 1 hour webinar training session on using LinkedIn to find Christian writers. This is all content. I tell you how to create the foundation for marketing yourself. I tell you what good clients look like. I tell you how to find them. I go through a step-by-step screenshot example of using LinkedIn and where to find them and how to connect with people and all those kinds of things. We make it very, very simple for you so that you can find and land your first client. The next thing is that, so once you have those three resources, those are the three resources that are for free, the writing, persuasive writing, the writing for the Christian market, and using LinkedIn to find clients. Those are the three resources we'll give you when you go in. You can get those simply by accessing them at that Christian Writer link at the bottom. When you do that, the next step is you want to identify 20 dream clients. You want to do some research, find out if they make great prospects using the ideas that I've shared with you here, collect the information using the ideas that I'll share with you in the LinkedIn presentation, be able to get in touch with them using the strategies I've shared with you in the LinkedIn presentation and those other two webinars that we'll share with you. And you can go out there and find your first client. Simply follow up with them with step number 5 and begin the relationship and follow through with them. Now, it's pretty simple. Again, I'm not deep diving into this because you have the resources you need in order to make this effective and to follow up with it and fill in some of the gaps here that I've left out because of time restraints here. So again, you can find all of this at awaionline.com/Christian Writer. Now, I want to tell you how much I appreciate you spending time on here. It's been great sharing with you. I see that there are a ton of questions. I think that we're going to go over just a little bit, maybe 5 or 10 minutes at the very most, and I'm going to just start at the top and begin answering some of these questions verbally. And again, I will get to all of these questions. We'll get these emailed to me after we're done with the presentation, and I'll make a commitment to you that we'll get them answered and get them posted back to you so you can have access to them. So let's just start here. So first question that I have here is, once you've written an article, this is by Linda B. She says, once you've written an article, or etc., what do you suggest is the best way to promote it and market it if you don't have a publicist? I think we've pretty much covered that. This is a little bit different arena. A lot of times, if you follow this system, you'll be writing for a client, and they already have a publication outlet for that. If you're marketing for yourself, which in my video on LinkedIn, I share a little bit about how to do that. If you're marketing for yourself, then you would contact associations, publishers, etc. Send them a query letter and share with them some ideas about a topic that's relevant to them, and they would probably publish you. Let me skip through a few things here. So someone asks, Tamara Bolton here asks, I'm writing a devotional book. Where would be my best market? Well, it depends on what kind of devotional book you're writing, Tamara. And I would think that you could probably joint venture with somebody who's already in that market as a beginning spot. So maybe you want to co-author that with somebody. Maybe you would find on social media contacts. Again, remember I talked about groups of people collaborating with each other and consolidating into like-minded groups. So there's a lot of social media things. You might look for a group in LinkedIn or Facebook and find a place where you can market that book. All right. The question is, do you let people interview for your book? Do you let the people you interview for a book know that you're writing a book? Is there a problem with letting someone know the topic you are writing about and having them take your idea and writing a book on their own? Let me just address this briefly. My answer is I've done lots of interviews and not necessarily for a book, for other campaigns and everything. I've never worried about people stealing my ideas. I just don't. Most people have integrity, and if they do, they don't have my personality and my insight, and people really buy what's important to them based on a chemistry between you and them. And so I wouldn't worry about that. I'd let them know that you're writing a book, or you don't need to, but it's a good way to introduce it. So it'd be wonderful. Someone says, beautiful family. Thank you very much. I think so as well. Let's just take a couple more questions here. Okay. This is a great question. Many markets seem saturated with talent. This is from a gentleman named Jim. Many markets seem saturated with talent. How flooded is the Christian market as a potential roadblock? I can tell you unequivocally that it is not saturated, not even remotely. There is a massive, huge gap. As we've indicated with some of these numbers that I've shown you here, there is a substantial, huge gap between where the Christian market is today and really where it should be. Okay. Another question from Roseanne. How important is it to have a blog as a platform? It's very important if you're going to promote yourself as an expert. And in that webinar, the training session that I've done on LinkedIn, I address that and taking that path of becoming an expert. Let me just take two more questions. This one's from Krista. Since you're speaking of increasing the Christian market, a mission I am also passionate about, I wonder if you're hoping to break into other companies such as Chick-fil-A that may be open to Christian influence. Number one, they are open to Christian influence. Many, many large corporations are. We see Time Warner in producing Superman resources for ministers. They want to break into the Christian market and expand that reach. They need people, writers, specifically persuasive writers, who get it and who understand it. So I am hoping to break into that more. And just so you guys know, I'm currently now doing a research report where I'm interviewing top Christian companies, authors, speakers, writers, and entertainment groups, and consolidating down ideas about how to break into the Christian market and speak to the Christian audience more effectively. I've been in this arena for close to 10 years. I know a little bit about it, but I'm doing an extensive research report to find out even more about what's working now. And by the way, if you go to this Christian writer link that we've got displayed here and you sign up there, then that'll give you access to that report when I get done with it here in a couple months. So just so you know that there's a resource there as well. Last question. Okay, great question by Keisha. What type of writing assignments did you first start with? Articles, direct sales copy, letters, emails? The answer is yes. My first client that I had was a public relations firm out of Washington, D.C., and they wrote sales material. They wrote public affairs kind of stuff where they were promoting press releases and magazine articles and a bunch of the salt in the oats kinds of stuff. And so I wrote across the board a lot of stuff for them: articles, speeches, letters, press releases, white papers, etc. I did a lot of that kind of stuff. Over time, I've done all of it, and so really what you'd want to do is you'd want to get a sense of what you initially feel comfortable with. You'll know what you feel comfortable with as you get into the report on the persuasive writing. It outlines a number of the different things and what it would look like and what it acts like and what it feels like, and you'd be able to see, oh, well, do I feel comfortable with that? The truth is, my favorite thing, you can tell by how fast I talk and how passionate I am about stuff, I really like to sprint. So I like shorter stuff. I like writing 800 to 1,200 word articles. I like writing emails. I like doing live events where it's one and done and I get in there and I talk about stuff and I'm done with it. So I like all those kind of things. But that being said, I've done a lot of long copy letters, and there's a great income in that. So all right, friends, we are at almost 10 after here by my clock. I want to end here. It already puts us 10 minutes over. But again, you've asked a lot of questions here, and I see that they're still coming in. Somebody just barely fired off another one. So you're asking a lot of questions. When we get done, I'll have these emailed to us. We'll make sure to answer each one of these and get the answers back to you so you've got that value. I really hope that you'll take the time to go over to writerslife.com/Christian Writer. You can also go to awai.com/Christian Writer. Both links will get you to the same place. And you can sign up for those free resources that I said. There's zero obligation to do that. But I will tell you that if that's appealing to you, then I'm going to invite you to take action and make a commitment and move further down this journey. Allow me to coach you and mentor you in very significant ways and give you the resources and the tools that you need. So it's been a great, great pleasure sharing with you. I love this arena. I hope that it's made a difference for you, and I hope that you can make a difference for thousands of other people in a similar way that I have, including yourself and your family and loved ones. So I'm Joshua Boswell. Thanks again for listening, and we'll talk to you later. Bye.